Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast, podcast number 133. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the evening of Friday, July the 12th from the James Strong Studio in Western St. Charles County. My guest on the podcast, Kieran Gutting. He's been on the podcast before. He's the founder of Condra Capital Management. He's a financial guy. I've known Kieran for a long time. He's a sharp guy. And we're going to talk just a little bit about money and wealth. Welcome to the podcast, Kieran.
Well, welcome, Mr. Strong. It's a pleasure to be back here.
Now, just as a precursor, we're doing this the evening on a Friday night. And normally when I do a Friday night podcast, just like this one, we've had you to dinner. We've had a nice dinner. We've had wine with the dinner, and we're having cocktails while we're doing the podcast. So nice, relaxed atmosphere.
Definitely.
We had, and I always like to tell the folks, one of the biggest things I get, people ask me questions about the podcast. What wine did you drink? What coffee did you drink? What beer did you drink? What whiskey did you have? Whatever. Dinner was pretty basic. I had salmon and scallops throughout the week. So the trophy wife was in the mood for hamburgers. So we grilled hamburgers, cheeseburgers. It was nice and simple. But we had a nice Mendoza Malbec with dinner.
Very nice. Not too dry, not too overpowering, just right.
Mendoza Malbecs. Napa cabs are still my favorites. Maybe a nice California Zen is my favorite, but it's hard to beat a good Mendoza Malbec. And we had one tonight.
It was great. I think every day, just having around for a Friday night dinner, for whenever, it was wonderful.
That's why God made Costco, for good priced wine.
That's right.
But and then we're topping this off with a Disaronno Amaretto digestif whilst having the podcast. So I think you found a new favorite, haven't you?
Yes. Hadn't had it before. You'd asked me, do I want it? And I said, well, I'm not sure I know what it is. And now I know.
It's not just an amaretto. To me, it's the amaretto.
It's outstanding.
The best amaretto ever, in my opinion. Well, money. Wealth. Getting stuff. Everybody wants it. Nobody understands it completely, including me. Everybody knows that they want a bit more of it because when you get money, you can buy the cool stuff. And in fact, an old mentor of mine said, money is good for one thing. It buys you the tickets in life that lets you have fun. And it's kind of true. And that's what you do for a living. You help people become wealthy.
I help people have their money serve them best. In my experience, most people who have accumulated any money have worked really hard for it for the most part. Once in a while, you get somebody who caught a little lightning in a bottle, got a little lucky. The smart ones realize they got a little lucky when that happens. But by the vast majority, I mean about 98.5%, 99% of people who have more than a couple shekels to rub together, got it by working and sacrificing really hard. And then we come to the point in the life where we've served our employer, be it ourselves or be it the Fortune 500, the mid-sized company, the small business that we worked for. We've worked and we've served them. And then we get to the point, we want that money to serve us. That money needs to serve you. It needs to bring you something back. And I believe one of the values that I bring people is making sure they're getting all out of their money that they can. And that's different for everybody because they have different needs, they have different goals, they have different desires. I ask people to think of their money as an orange.
Okay.
And then ask yourself, how much juice do you want out of it? And oranges come in different sizes. Some are really small. You can hold 3 or 4 of them in your hand. Some of them are almost the size of grapefruits.
Right.
And they all hold different amount of juices. And I've met some people with pretty big oranges, but they just want a pinprick out.
Yeah.
And I almost find it so sad, not because they're not indulgent, but because some of them are missing out on things they could be doing. And where other people are like, I want every last drop. And if that last drop goes to the funeral home to pay for the coffin, so be it.
Mission accomplished. The kids are on their own.
They're on their own. I've loved them. I've given them moral ethics, a home, 3 hots and a cot, and they're fine.
Well, you brought up a good point. And we all work very hard for our money. And we talked before the podcast, the definition of wealth, and there's all kinds of definitions of wealth. And until very recently, I was kind of opaque on what the definition of wealth was. But there's a guy who was on the Joe Rogan podcast. His name is Naval Ravikant. And he's an Indian immigrant. He's a billionaire. He's an angel investor. He just has a uncanny sense of seeing a startup and thinks, I think this will work. Here's $8 million. It works, and he collects a big paycheck from it. He says, Ravikant says, the definition of wealth, it's not a number. It's not 1 million. It's not 100 million. It's not 1 billion. The definition of wealth is when you can make money while you sleep. In other words, you have money that's invested in a stock. You have real estate. You have a business, whatever. But you're not, if you work from 9 to 5, at 5:01, you're not making money.
No, if you own Coca-Cola stock and you're sleeping at 3 a.m. and somebody in Germany where it's 10 o'clock in the morning is walking in on break and buying a Coke, that's helping your company. That's your wealth.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, let me ask you a question. I've always heard that for the average investor, the best way to make money over the long haul is in the stock market. Is that true?
It's true for a lot of people. The caveat being they have to have the emotional capacity for it.
I'm talking about, okay, here's a hunk of money. I want to be someplace in 40 years. Is that the best place to put it?
I think, James, again, for most people, the answer is yes, but it can be emotional. So some people, they might be better off buying 2 apartment buildings and renting it.
So if they're going to look at the stock market 3 times a day and think, oh my gosh,
I'm up 5,000. Ooh, I'm down 7. Ooh, I'm into this. I'm out of that. Oh my gosh.
You can't do that.
This person's getting elected. This person got unelected. Emotionally, you can't do it. I know there's a person I'm thinking of right now, self-made, multimillionaire, has no money in the market and shouldn't because can't take anything and then goes to panic. And the 2 emotions that come over people that ruin them are fear and greed. And it dictates behavior. So if you can keep the emotions in check, if you believe you're working with the right people that will help you manage those expectations, those emotions, make those decisions, absolutely. The vast majority of people who have invested in a non-hyper-aggressive way in the market, and they're in it for 20, 30 years, they've made money.
Yeah, they just have.
It's easy. One of the great things about the stock market is if you're sitting there and you're starting out and you're like, I could only put in $50 a month into this investment. You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people accumulate wealth with those $50 a month because life improves, life gets better, then it's 75. But all of a sudden, they've accumulated a little bit of money. That's why those 401k plans, those 403bs, those payroll deferrals that you can just contribute into. And what I talk to clients about is when they're contributing, next year when it comes around, up at 1%. And then another percent. And then one day you're going to open that statement. You're going to see you have 100,000 or 200,000. And you're going to say, wow. The hardest part is that first 12 to 18 months where you're like, well, I'm putting that in and all I got is $1,200.
Right. Exactly. And my $1,200 this month made me, in fact, actually the stock market was down. It was $1,200 at the beginning of the month, and now it's only $1,180.
Yep.
I would have done better if I stuck it under my mattress.
Could have stuck it under my mattress, could have invested it. Instead of buying Anheuser-Busch stock, I could have bought Anheuser-Busch product, and I would have enjoyed $20 worth of Budweiser.
I've heard that comparison more than once. So today, on Friday, July the 12th, the stock market closed at a record high.
Record high on the S&P.
27,332 on the Dow.
The S&P, I believe, was over
3013.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't invest now because it's buy low and sell high, right?
Right.
Why would you buy now? Because it's at a record high.
Well, and you shouldn't buy now if your plan is I need to be out in a year.
Right.
If you're 32 years old and you're planning on retiring sometime between age 60 and 70, Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Time has been the friend of every long-term investor.
Now you're the financial guy, okay, and I'm just the dopey podcaster. But in my opinion, if you're going to retire, period, you've got to invest money in the stock market, or at the very least bonds or something, because you are not going to make it on Social Security. Oh, you'll make it. You will not starve. The lights won't be turned out. They won't turn off your gas. But you're not going to a nice place on vacation.
Yeah, James, I probably said this last time I was here, and if I'm repeating myself, I won't apologize for it because it's very true. I don't care if you're 60 or if you're 24. If you want to know what not a lot of money is going to be in the future, look at your projected Social Security benefit.
Yeah.
It might seem appealing now. Oh my gosh, I'll get $3,400 a month. That's going to be great. I'm telling you, when you attain retirement age, $3,400 a month won't be a lot. That's what these pensioners found out who went to work for big companies in the 40s, 50s, and they're like, well, honey, when I retire in 1976, I'm going to get a $68 a month pension.
Yeah, there you go.
And they did. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have a lot of money.
That's exactly right.
Social Security, you're going to look at it. Yeah, will you be able to eat? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Probably be able to keep the lights on, do all that. You're not going to spend 3 months in Florida. You're not going to go to the Eiffel Tower. You're not going to take the grandkids to the Grand Canyon for 10 days. You're just not going to do it.
You will be able to, a couple of times a month, go to Golden Corral, come home, and watch Madlock.
Absolutely.
And that'll be about
Enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, if that's your idea of your golden years, well, good for you. I don't know many people that think that's the way they want.
I don't think that's anybody's dream. I think one thing that a common stumbling block for people in the getting started is, I just don't make enough to save anything. I would challenge most people on that.
Everybody makes enough to save something.
They just do. And something is a lot more than nothing. So you might say, well, I'm going to save enough between age 25 and 65 to where I'm going to have $1 million or $2 million. And I might say, well, I could never do that. I'd be lucky. Boy, if I saved 100,000 in that time, that would be a lot. That would be tough. 100,000 isn't much. It's a lot more than zero.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot more than zero. Mm-hmm. And so you should. And plus, especially to those folks out there under 40, you don't know how the story turns out, for the better or for the worse. Most people, though, generally end up doing a little bit better than they thought they might.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're guaranteed not to have anything if you don't save.
That's correct. That is a guarantee. If I just get paid and I piss away every dime, every paycheck, every time, one of the few guarantees you'll get is you will have nothing.
That's exactly right.
And you'll get to the point, nobody will have any sympathy for you, and they'll say, well, no different than the three pigs. Hey, you built your house out of sticks. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Now I know there are people who have some circumstances that didn't allow them to save. That happens with everyone. But you get to a certain point if you haven't saved, you should never say, well, I'm just too old. Why start now? You can start today.
You can start today. You can do something today, and you can move forward. In doing a little something, again, repeating myself, but is a lot more than doing nothing. And you don't have to know a lot. If you're in a company 401k plan, they have a fiduciary responsibility to provide options for you and to provide education for you. Mm-hmm. And if your company's not providing somebody coming in once a year to talk about what's available, that's a problem. But they're there for you. You don't know what to do. Chances are, if you have a 401k or 403b through your employer, one of the options offered is probably a target fund. It's a fund based on your age, and the fund's managed. You don't choose the investments. It's based on your age and your expected retirement.
Your target retirement date is 2035. So your investments are going to have X amount of risk. How will it do? It will do fine. Will it set the world record? No. Will it do far better than you doing nothing? Absolutely guaranteed. Yeah, and that's the one thing I especially tell young people this, because young people should start saving as soon as they start working. They should start saving.